All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you're refreshed and ready to go to hear our next fascinating speaker. And to introduce Maria, here is Inside of Sleep. So take it away inside.
Hello and welcome to Virtual Abilities 2025 Mental Health Symposium. I'm inside of sleep and I have chronic depression and anxiety. I've been on Second Life for a little over a year and I really appreciate the peer volunteer ran support groups and going to the music clubs. In real life, I'm an administrative worker by day and an artist by night. Today, I'd like to introduce Miss Maria Nieves. She's a practicing clinical psychologist in Brazil. Her talk is titled Worry Related to Climate Change Among Brazilian Adults. Audience, please hold your questions and comments to the end so as to not interrupt our presenter. Welcome, Miss Maria Nieves. The floor is yours.
Hello, is everyone listening to me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So, hello everyone. Before I begin this presentation, I like to thank Gentle Heron, aka Alice, and everyone here today for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about this topic that is for me, and I hope that for most people in the world, a very important one. So, climate anxiety in the face of climate change. I will try to focus on the part where we as a collective don't freak out. After all, this Congress is about managing anxiety. I stumbled upon this topic. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Oh, now you see the right one. I stumbled upon this topic during my last year of graduation in psychology. For me to actually graduate, I needed to do research on a topic of my choice. The other author of the paper that made Alice invite me to be here, Dr. Karin Jansen, was my professor and guided me through making this research. It's worth mentioning that she couldn't be here today with me due to previously scheduled appointments in the university. So it was 2022, the war had just nearly ended as we know it because of COVID. In Brazil, my country, a totally madman as elected president had consistently neglected all the sanitary measures in place, and we had 600,000 people deceased. COP26 had happened on the subject of climate change. Alice Patashaw and Tishai Surui were the new heroes from some people in my country and the new enemies for others because they were indigenous and the two of them were talking about preserving nature and climate crisis and how to prevent the world from collapsing. So, if I'm being honest, I was very angry and very sad and very scared about the world ending and everybody dying. And I wanted to do research about it. I wanted to know how other people felt and coped and what they did about it. And what I found was that there is scientific consensus that global warming is happening, and anyone with access to information about climate change is potentially susceptible to experiencing an anxiety response. In literature, this anxiety response was receiving a lot of names, as often happens in new areas of research. Okay, oh, sorry. I'm very confused with these slides. um, a lot of names, as often happens in new areas of research. Eco-anxiety, climate anxiety, anxiety, fear, grief, eco-anger, eco-grief, and so on. But one thing was already agreed upon by all researchers. Such reactions should not be immediately seen as pathological, as they can serve as motivation to find solutions to mitigate climate change. But what is climate anxiety? I chose these terms as many papers I read over the years use it. It could be understood as the distress and worry related to climate change. It can be connected to emotions such as fear, anger, grief, despair, guilt, and shame. Substantial levels of distress related to climate change have been reported globally, specifically in children and adolescents. In 2022, a lot of research was carried on in Australia, where the young were sad, angry, and organized in activism. I found one from there about what the authors called eco-anger and how this emotion, and not eco-anxiety, elicites responses to mitigate climate change. I also found studies in the Philippines, Congo, Morocco, Rwanda, Algeria, United States, and various European countries such as France, Italy, and North Scandinavia. The youth there were all very worried about their future, scared and feeling abandoned by the ones in charge. But the study that stuck with me and even gave me the means to do my own research was the study with 10,000 young adults across 10 countries: Australia, Brazil, Finland, France, India, Nigeria, Philippines, Portugal, the UK, and the US. 100 participants per country. The authors created their own questionnaire to survey the subjects, recruited them online, and what they wanted to know was: what are the feelings and thoughts that the young people have about climate change and how they feel about the government response to this crisis? They found pretty much the same as everyone else. Respondents across all countries were worried about climate change. More than 50% reported feeling sad, anxious, angry, powerless, helpless, and guilty, and many reported a high number of negative thoughts about climate change. How think that the future is frightening, or that they think people have failed to take care of the planet. Respondents also rated governmental responses to climate change negatively and reported greater feelings of betrayal than of assurance. So yes, things were very tense and scary in 2022. Remember what I said earlier about the madman as the president of Brazil and the war ending? Finding out these studies made me not just want but also need to investigate what my fellow Brazilians were thinking and feeling about the climate crisis. And so I wrote an email to the authors of the study above and asked them if I could use the questionnaire they have created for my own research, and they say yes. But I wanted to know what the young were feeling and thinking, and also what the older ones were feeling and thinking, because I wanted to compare them. Me and Karen thought that the older ones would be less worried. So the participants were aged between 18 and 42. I asked them their gender, race, ethnicity, age, education, Brazil's region of residence, income, information source about climate change like social media, TV and radio, scientific articles, frequency of receiving climate change information like very often, often, sometimes, rarely, and perception of knowledge about climate crisis that was obtained through a questionnaire created by me where I asked things like: I think human action is the main cause of the climate crisis. I know why the glaciers are melting. I think there is a link between deforestation and the climate crisis, and I realize that every year it gets warmer, and I understand the connection with the climate crisis. And the answers were: I am sure I know, or I'm not sure I know. In total, 300, I lost my English on the numbers. 323 subjects participated in the study. Most of the sample are women between 18 and 26 from the south of Brazil, undergraduate with income from 1 to 5 minimum wages, and self-declared white. 88.5% were worried about climate change, 69 very or extremely, and 19.5 moderately, and 11.5 were not worried or just a little worried. The worry was more prevalent among subjects who most frequently received or read news related to climate change, with no difference between the sources of such news. Moreover, people worried about climate change showed greater knowledge about the climate crisis when compared to people who were not worried. Feelings of sadness, powerlessness, fear, and anxiety were reported more often among those worried about climate change. And the most frequent thoughts were, people have failed to take care of the planet, the future is frightening, my family's security will be threatened, economic, social, or physical, and humanity is doomed. On the left side of the slide are all the feelings, and it's interesting to see that the only feelings that were more prevalent among the non-worry ones were indifference and optimism. On the right side are all the thoughts that were investigated. And now what? What do we do with all this information? Is climate anxiety healthy or unhealthy? Should we be worried about the climate crisis or not? What a big life uncertainty. In my research on the literature, I found that we don't know yet. Remember the Australian research I talked about? Eco-anger could be an answer, because when we humans feel anger, it serves the purpose of showing us that we think that something unjust, unfair, and wrong is happening. With just the right amount, anger serves as a motivator to action. If we don't respond violently, anger can help us do something, change things. Social activism, eco-activism, sometimes come about because we are angry with the way things are. Not scared, not anxious, but angry. Another way of looking at things is that anxiety, in a similar way to anger, also functions as a motivator to action when present in the right amount. And since anxiety and worry sometimes are related, it is okay to worry about the world ending. If climate change and the climate crisis are really happening, is there a way to not worry about it? So let me tell you that worrying about all this is the more human response we all can have. But this response, this worry, this anxiety, this anger should not paralyze us in despair and fear and lack of hope. We have to do something about it. We must do something about it. Activism, recycling, talking to people about it, respecting nature, eating less meat, voting the right people, demanding action of the people in power, holding capitalism accountable, reading and understanding what really is going on and spreading the word. Do what you can, change what you can, help where you can, and vote for the right people. Because once the climate crisis is a global issue, it is urgent that governments take real actions to mitigate and prevent the impacts of climate change, not only on people's mental health, but also on the environment as a whole. On this slide are pictures of the biodiversity of my country, Brazil, and I imagine that all around the world is the same way. So is that what we are losing, but also is for that that we are fighting for? And lastly, there's a very beautiful article called How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Eco Apocalypse, an existential approach to accepting eco anxiety, that reminds us that we are all gonna die someday, and that is sad, very sad, but also very true. So instead of paralyzing ourselves in fear and anxiety, we should live. Live the best we can, doing the best we can, knowing that we are a very large group of people and we should live in community, helping each other, listening to each other, respecting each other, and fighting for the future, a better one for all of us. And sorry, but I need to repeat myself and say it one more time. Climate change is real, it is happening, feeling things about it is likely a normal response, and we all need to do all we can to mitigate it and demand action from the ones in charge and voting in the right people, the politicians that are not mad people, the ones that really care about the people, that don't commune with billionaires. Those are the ones that maybe will do something real about climate change. Thank you all very much for your attention. I'm here for questions and comments. And there's a reference list with the papers and research I use for my research and for this presentation. And my email is, or in some place, you all are very welcome to send me questions and thoughts and feelings and invites for the research on this topic that I really, really appreciate and love about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Excellent. Are there any questions from the audience?
Okay, so we're starting strong with Mook. Sorry about the feedback. Mook says, your points on eco-anger and eco-anxiety are extremely interesting. People certainly take the least outlier action when they are most comfortable, i.e. they don't change jobs, accommodation habits, lifestyles, etc. when they are happy and fulfilled. No reason to. It is reduced comfort that usually forces people to move, that pushes big change in people's lives. You say eco-anger rather than eco-anxiety is a stronger motivator for climate action. In your research, did you find that eco-anger and eco-anxiety tend to develop in a particular sequence, e.g. anxiety first then anger, or do they typically coexist with the outset? Such findings would have a direct impact on climate action strategies if paralysis is equated with eco-anxiety and action with eco-anger. Also, did anxiety typically develop into anger or vice versa, or not usually? And did your research reveal any demographic or contextual patterns, e.g. age, political environment, that make people more prone to one response over the other? Thank you.
Wow, very, very good questions. I love them, but I don't know if I know how to answer them in a way that is so good as the question. So, in my research, I didn't focus on eco anger. I discovered this already doing my research and focusing in anxiety. My English betrayed me, but what I found in the studies with eco anger is that it can happen only the anger part or only the anxiety part of the both of them. And in people who had only eco anger or eco anger and eco anxiety, the eco anger was the motivator because anxiety serves as a motivator to action, but is more prevalent and present on the paralyzing side of the spectrum. And anger always pushes to do something, violently or not. I think that we have to choose when if we feel echo anger, we have to choose between doing something violently or doing something not violently, because do something, we will do it. And I don't know the order, to be honest, and I don't know if if there exists researchers talking about this order, because the two of them were investigated like a cluster. We all can have eco anxiety and eco anger and eco grief. I don't know if there's research yet investigating the order where they happen of the if they are separate. And in my research, we look for demographic or contextual patterns, and we find that we don't find actually any difference. Remember that we thought that the older ones will be less worried. The data collected wasn't able to show any difference, and we think that it happened because less people with 40 and 42 and more than 60, then more than the 20s didn't respond to the questionnaire. Me and Karen weren't we able to find people with that age. So is a lack, is a gap in my research, the demographic variables.
Zombie asked, what about reusing things? Part of the problem, in my opinion, is that we have a throwaway culture now. If it's outdated or breaks, throw it out and replace it. At one point, this wasn't the case. The smallest scrap of fabric was reused for a quilt. Some of us here may remember a TV repairman. Do you think if we can go back to focusing on quality and fixing what we have, that this can help with climate change?
I think so. I think that can help, but I also think that we don't have to take the blame on us. Like, oh, I don't recycle, so it's on me that climate change is happening. It's a way more vast scenario where big companies, big techs, big people with money are the ones to blame. But yes, we should do something about it. What we feel comfortable, and what we think that is in our power. So recycling things or buying less things, okay, it can help. I think that all action we take is helpful, but we have to know. No, we have to do things without guilty. We have to do things because we think that this will help, but not feeling guilty about not doing this or that. I really love the comment of Ice Sky. I also think that the old generations need to follow the lead of the young people. I really think that they are doing it. They are trying to solve it. They are talking. There are a group of young people that put Portugal, the government of Portugal, in a court because they said that the government wasn't providing them their future. And this is awesome. I really love it. Greta Thunberg is other hero, and they are very diverse group of young people around the world doing things, and they are angry, and I love it. I really love it.
Maria, this is Shay, and I'm going to read you Lily Live's comment so that everyone else can hear it too. Young people are trying to change the law too. They are suing to force companies to pay. It's great. Would you like to make a comment on that?
I think that echoes what Ice Sky said. Is about that. Sue the force companies, change what you can. I will not say like eco terrorism is fine. I don't know. I will not say that here. But the other things like protesting, activism, suing companies that are destroying the planet, all this is very nice. I think that we should commune with the young ones and not say things like, "Oh, they are so revolted and angry and screaming." No, we should help them. They are right. I think they are doing something at least. They don't. They are not paralyzed in fear, and I think that this is the response. Eco anxiety or climate anxiety are okay and are normal, but we should not let it paralyze us. We should do something about it. Do what we can. and the young ones are doing this, and it's beautiful. It's poetic even.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that response. I am moving us back through chat. There are a couple of other questions and comments. Zombie Doggy responded with a true lily and indicated that, but can we make them last longer and make them out of materials that when they do wear out and break can be recycled? I'm making that simply so you know that comment has been made. iSky also continued with, here in my general area, we have been dutifully sorting out our trash for recycling, and we learned that the recyclables weren't getting recycled. Imagine the frustration. We do our part. And now I'm moving you to another comment from a new commenter, and that is Dory Bernstein. Dory states, I hope the right to repair movement grows a lot stronger. That involves companies changing their manufacturing processes, which is the challenge. Would you like to make further comment on that, Maria?
Absolutely. The companies have to change the way they manufacture things. And what iSky said is very sad. Here in the place where I live, this happens too. We recycle and they don't get recycled in the way they should. But we have to keep trying. We have to focus and keep trying. I think that if we give up, then they won, and we lost the planet, we lost the future, we lost all the things that we love and care about. So it's frustrating and sad, but we should not give up or do our part and the things we can do.
Excellent comments and questions as usual. Are there any others in the audience? Go ahead, Stealth. Text or voice as your preference.
Okay, let's see. All right, my mic seems to be working. So I have a question because you're from Brazil, and this is regarding attitudes towards indigenous populations, which really do try to protect so many crucial ecosystems, so much crucial land. And how do you ever convince people that this land belongs to the indigenous populations, even when it is considered sovereign, and that it's not just open land for anyone to exploit? Because this is something that I see happening, not just in Brazil, in the rainforest, but it definitely happens there. But it happens even where I live, where even though, it should be agreed upon that these lands, this belongs to the indigenous people who they're stewards of that land, they're taking care of it, but other people just infringe on the territory. That's all I have to say.
I agree with you. Here in Brazil, the indigenous people call it, and I agree with it, genocide. In 2022, the madman in power that I talk about, the president, killed a bunch of them because he's an evil person, a horrible person. And here in Brazil is a difficult conversation to have about the lands are theirs. The Portuguese is the arrive here stole them, and we as white people are using it. The is well, it was stole, and a lot of people were killed because of that. And here in Brazil, the debate about it is very baby steps, because there's a lot of grief and shame and fear around it from all parts, the white ones and the indigenous ones. And here we have the story of slavery too. So it's a complicated country, but I think that the indigenous ones are the heroes here. They are trying their best to maintain their home, their land, and the home and land of everyone. Because if we treat nature the way they treat it, we are safe, everyone. But here in Brazil, and I think that in other peoples of the world, in other parts of the world, we don't quite get it yet. So Alice Patachó and Shai Surui that I talk about, they are heroes to me, but like they have received a lot of death threats over the years, because they talk about it, the madmen doing evil things, and nature and capitalism and their lands and their people, and so they have received love and support, but also death threats. So it's difficult to do activism here in Brazil, but they are trying, and I think that they all, we the white ones, owe them support. We have to fight alongside with them in Brazil and in all around the world. There are indigenous and natives all around it, and we have to know them and help them and support them. We owe that to them.
Thank you, Maria. That's a brilliant response. I see no more questions. This is Shay, one of the transcriptionists. I'm turning this back over to Pecos Kid to ask whether or not anyone else has more questions or comments.
Thank you, Shay. Does anyone else have more questions or comments? Thank you, Maria. Great job. Thank you for using Second Life to. Hope you found it a fascinating place, and you're welcome to come back and join us anytime. Thank you for being
Just
here.
one question.
Yes, please.
Pecos, one question. I'm going to type it, okay?
This is Shay, a transcriptionist. Maria, the question from Shiloh is, do you see any comparison to the Earth movement of the 60s and 70s and current eco-anger, eco-anxiety movement by younger, eco-aware youth?
Ooh, good one. I think that now the young ones were they are more angry, and I think that in the 60s and in the 70s they are more focused on like the love part and the peace, like we have to love each other, we have to love our earth, we have to respect each other, we have to stop the wars and have peace in the world, which is very valid and okay, but I don't know if they are very equal, because now the young ones are scared and all, but they are angry. They are very angry. The ones active and doing activism and doing protest, and like Greta Thunberg was arrested multiple times already, and she keeps going, keeps doing it, keeps uh, trying to change things. And I think that I feel and I think that the young ones in the movement for ecology now, they are not focusing on peace and love. They love the earth, but they are angry that we, the older ones, are destroying it. They are angry with us. So I think that this is a big, big difference of historic context. And I tend to think that the way capitalism works too, and the way our society as a whole works, brings the young ones to be angry and not focusing with peace and forgiveness and love. But I don't think that the anger will become more violence, because I do think that they are angry, but their hearts are full of love. And they want a good place to live, a place that is just and respectful. They want to live in communities, but they are angry because they don't have it. But I do think that, like Alice Patachot, Chai Surui, Greta Thunberg, all of them, they have a lot of love in their hearts, but they are using angry now, what is super valid. And when they reclaim what's theirs, I think their love will come. And they will not reclaim it violently. I think that they are angry, but they are using it as a motivator to do something, because they want the things to be just fine, so they can show all the love they have for the earth and for the ecology and the animals and one another.
I'll echo Serenity's comment that it's a little bit of a simplification to say that all of the protesters in the 70s were peace and love. We had our share of angry activists at that time as well. But your point is well made that regardless of when, it's always the young that have the most to lose. It's always the young that have the most likely chance to help define the future, in my opinion.
Totally, totally. Here in Brazil, the movement you all are talking about, here in Brazil, they don't happen, because in that time here we were suffering from a dictatorship, and we were very angry in Brazil in the 60s and in the 70s, and not talking about ecology, because there are military forces in place, killing people and arresting people and torturing people. So I think that is a difference of country. Here in Brazil, we don't have the movements in the 60s and in the 70s focusing on ending wars and love and activism for ecology. We were trying to vote, reclaim the democracy, and ending a dictatorship. In Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, all the Latin America. I remember that just now. This very important part of context.
a sign of how effective your presentation is look at all the conversation. You've got people going about young versus old and right to repair and all sorts of things. So well done in terms of stirring up the emotions of the audience. This is great.
I'm very, very happy with this reception. You guys are the best.
Are there more questions you would like Maria's perspective on? Our next presenter is not scheduled until the bottom of the hour, so we have time for more questions if you like. But if there are no further questions for Maria, thank you so much, and we really appreciate your insights and perspectives. And we can take a little bit of a break until the bottom of the hour when our next presenter is scheduled.
Thank you all for the invite and the attention and the comments and questions and conversation. I'm really pleased. So yeah, goodbye. My email is there. Just welcome. If you are all welcome, if you want to send me emails asking things and chatting and inviting me to other presentations and stuff.
Maria, may I stop you for just a moment? This is Shay again. Do you would you feel comfortable spelling your email out so that we as transcriptionists can try and get it and put it in chat for people to refer to? Or would you just like us to refer people to you?
I can put it here on the chat, right?
Yes, you can. That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
There.
You rock. We've got it.